The next thing that I would talk a little bit about is something from the same era. I know these guys all kind of cluster. This is the Gates, which was at Central Park for a while in New York. And I'm going to hop out of this and just put this on play. Oh, I wasn't really a fan of the Gates. One of the things that came around a lot was that these, the big deal was that Christo and Jeanne-Claude never took sponsors. They never took donations. They never sought, grants. They funded the whole thing themselves. It was a giant gift to the public to enjoy their work. And we're like, oh, thank you, grand artists who gave us a $20 million work. And they would never say it directly, but they always had their publicists and people in the background leaking the price, $20 million. And the Gates cost $20 million and took 25 years to build. This is them driving around in a Maybach that was loaned to them by a Mercedes in exchange actually for a drawing. So I guess that wasn't sponsorship, but they were photographed, all over town in their Maybach when the show was on. Frankly, my favorite piece of anything related to the Gates was this. I don't know if you can see over here. This is a little gate right here on a little rowboat, a little motorboat. This is an island. It's called Floating Island. There was a piece by Robert Smithson that they finally realized the Whitney Museum did it. And it's a barge with trees and stuff. It's supposed to be like a chunk of Central Park floating around Manhattan, being towed by a tugboat. Some artists from Brooklyn made a little gate on a boat and set off in hot pursuit. So I'll just put this little video up because it's kind of cute while it's running. And it's silent. So if I get boring, you can always just watch this video. They're anonymous, and they just they set off to pursue their Central Park. And there's a third boat. The guy was like in a little inner tube tied behind the boat to film the whole thing. So he's like bobbing along behind this little putt-putt boat. Honestly, the best thing the Gates ever did was like set off a bunch of Gates jokes. But so anyway, I was like really skeptical of this $20 million figure. So I took my consultant business school hat, put that back on, and decided to break down the actual cost of what the Gates, what Christo is spending to make these Gates. And I did that on my blog. Was not a good idea. And my uncle actually is my uncle is in the construction business. He's a big rebar king. Is that the right word? Rebar magnate. And so he helped me figure out like the cost of steel. And I started asking around, and there was a lot of like little factoids and data floating about how much time these things, how many yards of fabric went into the Gates, all this kind of little trivia that sort of made it sound big. And I started then costing this stuff out. And this is just, we're not going to, I would imagine the whole reason anybody's interested in art is because you don't want to get interested in math. So we'll just skip through. That's what works for me. So we'll skip through this. There was basically like about $1.7 million worth of materials. If you net out the recycled price of the steel, because steel had tripled in value in between the time they poured it and the time the Gates closed. So they could actually almost have net zero steel costs, which was like a great investment just in the Gates alone. Then the fabrication costs for sewing and making these gates and towers and bases. The labor costs, and they had a bunch of volunteers, but then they paid a lot of people at minimum wage. And people sort of were eagerbeats wanting to come build the Gates. Anyway, it all comes down to about $5 million. So direct costs, and then you're like, well, there's got to be other costs. And they spent 25 years doing this thing. So, if you factor in things like, feasibility studies, environmental impact, they went through 5 attempts to get this built, going to the city and trying different administrations to see if they could do it. Do a proposal, all this stuff, consultants, that's all got to cost. Even if you say like $1 million a pop, it's $5 million. So you're left with basically $10 million unaccounted for, and you're like, well, maybe that's their time. The lawyers charge by the hour, why don't artists? So then if you do that, it turns out they had to charge like $1,000 an hour for 25 years to get up to the $10 million each. I mean, so it's like $10,000 each for both of you, for each of them. So basically, there's no real way you can account for this $20 million number, unless you say it's the retail price. In which case, the markup's 100%. That's like a standard gallery, markup for anything. So maybe this was just the retail price, but then nobody in New York pays retail for anything. So we should at least acknowledge the fact that these guys were only maybe out $10 million bucks. But then you have to say, why would they say that it cost $20 million if it didn't? Who benefits? What's the point? And the general public, I think, to some extent, and the Maybach and the adoring crowds is one aspect that's probably interesting to them. They get more glow if they give $20 million away than if they give 10. I think if you give $10 million away for something completely frivolous and just totally pointless, like a giant work of art, that's still pretty good, the warm fuzzy for that. But anyway, I think that the real reason here was because that was a number they wanted in their collectors' heads. And they put it out there. They don't have a dealer. They sell directly to their collectors, museums, and people come to the studio and they do this kind of spiel and like tour, and then they sell maquettes and sketches and drawings and editions of relating to the work, studies and this kind of thing. And if the work was $10 million and you're saying this piece right here is $500,000, then you're like, wow, that's a pretty significant chunk of your cost. But if it's $20 million or 25, then it's much less, and you kind of feel, yeah, like you're contributing, but it's not all on your shoulders. So it makes it easier to buy, and it just creates a context for the price that you're telling your collectors. I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't know, and I didn't want to get in touch with the Christos themselves, because as soon as this happened, and this was got in the New York Times. Somebody wrote about it. I didn't write anything about it, but they wrote about the blog thing, and I started getting these freaky, like really creepy emails from like Christo fanatics. But what was I thinking? Why am I such an ingrate and all this stuff? I'm like, hey, look, I'm just saying. And so I didn't want to get too close to the Christo camp. They seem kind of like really thin-skinned. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they sell $20 million worth of work and clear $10 million, in which case, that's a great business to be in. Even if it takes you 25 years, you get to realize your project, and you get $10 million in food. I think it's win-win. So, I don't know. That's sort of neither here nor there. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't want to get on tape with it, dissing Christos. But anyway.